Hey guys, Churchy here. So I've had quite a few people commenting on some of my old Outward videos asking for new ways to make silver, so that's exactly what this guide will be. I'm going to show you what's currently one of the most effective ways to farm silver in Outward, and that is the horror weapon farming run. Keep in mind this farming method may get patched down the line, as is so often the case in Outward, so make sure you check the comments for any pinned updates regarding the viability of this silver farming run. I've left a link to the written version of this guide in the description, but with all of that said, let's get straight into it. Prologue. The idea with this run is to farm the materials to craft the high value two-handed horror weapons and then sell them at Levant due to Levant's increased sell prices. To get the most out of this guide, you'll need the Soroborian's DLC because this gives you access to the two-handed horror weapon recipes. If you don't have the DLC, you'll still be able to do the run, but you'll have to craft one-handed axes and shields which sell for less. While you're doing the run, always try to hold on to the following items if you can: iron two-handed weapons, predator bones, linen cloth, occult remains, palladium scraps, and horror chitin. During the run, whenever you have a two-handed iron weapon, two predator bones, and a linen cloth, make sure you combine them to create a two-handed fang weapon. This will reduce the weight in your backpack. Also, if at any point you find yourself with a two-handed fang weapon, occult remains, palladium scrap, and horror chitin, combine those four items to craft a two-handed horror weapon. This will also help reduce how much weight you're carrying. While you're doing the run, kill any beast golems you encounter. They have a 50% chance to drop a palladium spike, which can be salvaged into a palladium scrap. You'll be starting this farming run in Berg, so make sure you have a campsite there with a plant tent and a backpack on the ground nearby to store items. Now let's get started with the horror weapon farming run. Step 1. A few things in Berg. If you need linen cloth, buy some or buy clothing from the shopkeeper and salvage the clothing into linen cloth. Buy any occult remains the alchemist has. They won't always have them, but sometimes they stock them.
How can I help you?
Buy all iron two-handed weapons from the blacksmith.
Hey there.
Make sure you have at least 4 travel rations. Step 2. Cabal of Wind Temple. Now head out of Berg and head to the Cabal of Wind Temple in the southwestern part of the Enmerkar forest. Keep in mind that the enemies you'll be fighting here deal physical and decay damage and are weak against lightning damage. Kill the Illuminator horrors outside the temple and take all the predator bones they drop. Kill the Immaculate outside the temple and take any occult remains it drops. Go inside the temple and trigger the trap near the entrance to kill the shell horror in the center room. Lure the rest of the shell horrors into the room and then trigger the trap again to kill them all. While you're traveling around the temple luring the shell horrors, also kill the Illuminator horrors that you come across and take all the predator bones that they drop. Loot the shell horror bodies in the center room. Take all of the horror chitin and any predator bones they drop. Take the thrice wrought halberd if you haven't already, and loot the ornate chest. Step 3. Hives. If you still need occult remains for your horror weapon crafting, head to the hives in the southeastern corner of the Enmerkar forest. Keep in mind that the enemies you'll be fighting here deal physical and decay damage and are weak against fire damage. Kill the walking hives and hive lords in and around the hives, and take any occult remains they drop. If you make your way into the hive a little bit, you can find an ornate chest not very far from one of the entrances. It's guarded by a walking hive and hive lord, so it can be very worthwhile farming those guards and the chest. Also, back outside, make sure you mine the palladium vein on the rock face just northwest of the hive entrance. Step 4. Abrassar and Levant. Now that you've got horror chitin and occult remains, head to the Abrassar desert and head east until you reach the hives. You can also farm occult remains at these hives if you wish, but you don't really need to. Just east of the hives, in a small canyon with 2 entrances, is the Immaculate's camp. You can find a palladium vein near each entrance to the canyon, and a 3rd vein near some rubble at the back of the canyon. You can also loot an ornate chest near the camp entrance. If you'd like to, you can kill the Illuminator horrors and shell horror in the canyon for some more predator bones and a horror chitin. When you're done in the canyon, continue east to Levant and buy 3 palladium spikes from engineer Austin, salvage them into palladium scraps.
How can I help you? This is troubling.
At this stage, you should finish making any horror weapons that you can. So the recipe for that is combining 2-handed fang weapons with a horror chitin, occult remains, and a palladium scrap to craft a 2-handed horror weapon. The one-handed recipe is the same, but uses a one-handed fang weapon instead of a 2-hander. You should also make sure that you set up a campsite in Levant so you can store excess materials and loot here. Step 5. Back to Berg. Make sure you have at least 4 travel rations, travel back to Berg in the Enmerkar forest and sleep for 24 hours. The combination of travelling to the Abrassar and back and then sleeping for a day will total 7 days passing, which will be enough time to reset the main dungeons required for this farming run, and will also have passed enough time to reset the mineable palladium veins required for the run. The enemies in the Enmerkar forest and Abrassar world spaces won't have respawned, but you can do the run without those enemies. Just make sure you go inside the Cabal of Wind Temple and Hives to find farmable enemies. You can now repeat the run from step 1, but if you do want to completely reset the regions, the best way is to go inside a city and sleep for 7 days. Step 6. Optimizing the run. Gear, skills, and quests. In this step, I'll quickly take you through the gear I'm using and why, as well as a few skill choices and quests that are useful for this run. So the gear I'm using is the Entomber set. You can buy this set from the tailor in Levant. It gives you a good combination of stamina cost reduction, movement speed, physical resistance, impact resistance, and lightning resistance. But most importantly, if you wear the full set, it gives you 60% decay resistance. The majority of the enemies you'll be fighting on the horror weapon farming run deal physical and decay damage, so this is a great set for the run. Mefino's Trade Backpack. Mefino's backpack is the perfect backpack for this run simply because it has such a large carry capacity, which makes it much easier to not get weighed down during the run. To get the backpack, make sure you have 2 power coils and then head over to the bandit fort located northeast of Cierzo in the Churchy region. Once you're in the fort, you'll find a building in the northwest of the camp. That building has a door inside that you need 2 power coils to unlock. In the room behind the door, you can find Mefino's Trade Backpack. The Sunfall Axe. The Sunfall Axe is a good choice because axes have a nice attack pattern, and this particular axe has a fast attack speed and deals physical and fire damage, which makes it very effective against Hive Lords and Walking Hives, and those are the enemies that you'll probably be directly fighting the most. To get the axe, travel to the Stone Titan caves in the Abrassar desert. The caves are underneath the huge statue near the middle of the desert. Once you're in the caves, activate at least 4 of the 5 runestones to make the Sunfall Axe spawn on top of the last runestone in the bottom of the cave. I'll show you some gameplay of getting the axe now. Any bow. Consider bringing a bow and some arrows with you so you can easily lure enemies towards your traps or pick them off at a distance. Pearlbird Mask. Any of the movement speed mask variants are super useful for any build or farming run simply because they make you move faster. To get a Pearlbird Mask, hunt Pearlbirds in Churchy. Camping outside Ciezo and deliberately getting ambushed can be a good way to get Pearlbirds to spawn, but keep in mind the mask drop rate is pretty low. Master Trader Boots. Much the same as the Pearlbird Mask, you want these boots for the extra movement speed. The Soroborian Caravaner has a chance to sell them in any of the regions outside of the cities. There's also a small chance to find them in loot containers in the Hallowed Marsh and its dungeons. So skill-wise, I've just selected a few basic ones that are easy to get, don't require much investment, and can be quite helpful for the horror weapon farming run. So you want to get Fitness from the Spellblade in Ciezo. Extra health is always useful. Also consider getting Shield Charge from the Spellblade. If you're going to be using a shield charge is a great high-impact initiator. Sweep Kick from the Rogue Engineer in Levant. Having Sweep Kick, Push Kick, and Shield Charge assigned to your quick slots can give you a lot of ways to inflict impact damage on enemies, and the three combined can be a great way to control a fight. Also think about getting Pressure Plate training from the Rogue Engineer. Having access to Pressure Plates can make the run much easier. Arm the Pressure Plates as shock traps when fighting the Scourge around the Cabal of Wind Temple, and incendiary traps when you're fighting the Hive enemies. If your character is purely focused on doing the horror weapon farming run, at this point it may also be worth considering using one of your 3 breakthrough points on Feather Dodge on the Rogue Engineer tree, and then getting the specialist skill Pressure Plate Expertise. Feather Dodge is nice because it will allow you to dodge unhindered while still using Mefino's trade backpack, but more importantly, Pressure Plate Expertise will make your traps more powerful and let you reuse pressure plates, which will let you be a lot more efficient. If the character you're making is purely focused on the horror weapon farming run, I'd suggest that you use one of your breakthrough points on Swift Foot on the Mercenary tree for an extra 10% movement speed, and then get the Marathoner Specialist skill from the same tree to make sprinting consume 40% less stamina. These 2 skills are incredibly useful and make the run much more efficient. Speaking of efficiency, once you've got some spare silver for a trip to Harmattan, consider picking up the efficiency skill from the Speedster. The extra stamina can be helpful. So to finish this up, I just want to mention a few quests that can be worth doing to help you get the most out of the farming run. Silver for the Slums. You do this quest to unlock Tamara the Smuggler in Levant, and you want to do that because she sometimes sells occult remains, so it can be useful. Blood Under the Sun. You do this quest to return the Levant buy prices to normal and keep the increased sell prices. So it can be pretty useful since you'll be spending a lot of time in Levant.
Do I look like I stand a chance? I won't resist.
And finally, consider joining the Sorobor Academy, and then when you do the Purifier quest as a member of the Sorobor Academy, one of your options will be to hand in the evidence to Headmaster Roll Salaberry. Make sure you do that and you'll get the Preferential Treatment passive, which makes all items 15% cheaper to buy and makes all items sell for 15% more. Also, if you've joined the Sorobor Academy, you can get the Logistics Expert passive later in the questline, and that will give you 10% cooldown reduction, 5% increased movement speed, and an extra 5 pouch capacity. And that is it. That is the horror weapon farming run. You've now got a consistent, easily repeatable way to farm up as much silver as you'd like to. So take this run, adapt it to your liking, and get out there and farm up some horror weapons. Thank you to the legends supporting me on Patreon. I could not be doing this stuff without you guys, and I really appreciate the support. Also, thank you for watching. Have a good day or night, whichever it may be, and I'll see you in the next video.